Hey, it's Tyler, host of the Tyler Knows Everything podcast, where the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Ty Kudrain, in addition to Roxanne and Eric Hellberg. All of these amazing people have their own episode on this podcast that you can go back and listen to and learn more about them, so please check it out. My guest today is both super interesting and highly intelligent. Please welcome Charlie Foxworth.
Tyler
knows
everything.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah,
No, I'm
so-
totally good with that. Did you know I had a TV show?
No, you'll have to tell me about that.
Okay,
in a
so
minute.
but let's start with you first because I know you're going to have some questions about the electric car.
Yeah. So there's definitely no way I could bring you on without talking about the Tesla. And I wrote it down last, but we can.
Oh, you did?
But we can start.
No,
with
well,
that.
I thought we would just. I mean, it's so much more fun for me to start with you.
Yeah.
And then we ease into me. But
You know what? My last recording, sometimes I do on location recordings, and I was at JK Subaru inside the Subaru showroom, and of course I was in the talking about Subaru, and I had brought up Tesla maybe once, twice, 10 times. But Dalen was cool. He recognizes that Subaru has an interesting company culture, and they're on the cutting edge of technology, and they're experimenting in those spaces. They have the lane assist that keeps you in the lane, but nowhere near the autonomy that Tesla has.
yeah, his dad is like one of my heroes, and I'm on some boards with him.
Yeah.
And he did get to tell me the story about Subaru and how parents will buy their kids a Camaro and they wreck the Camaro and they're like, well, let's go get a Subaru.
Right.
Not realizing all that goes into the engines of a Subaru when they
Sure.
go buy it, that it could actually beat the Camaro
Right.
looking like a Subaru, but it is an extremely powerful vehicle.
Yeah, they started out making fighter planes for World War II.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating. But anyway, and I think has been a really good line of business for them. So that's incredible. So I'm really happy for them.
Yeah, and they kind of parallel Tesla, where you have Subaru owners that love the car. They don't just buy a Subaru because they need a vehicle to take them to and from somewhere. And that's like Tesla. People
Yep.
love the Tesla.
Well, because it's the future. I mean, once you drive one, you recognize everything that it is.
And sometimes you don't have to drive it. Sometimes it drives you.
Well, and that's true. That's true. So we had a conversation yesterday. So my car, the build on my car was done in February of 2018. So I didn't get it until later in the year, but the build was done then. If you were to buy a car today, the same exact car, so it would look identical on the exterior to what you have, but there's a completely different suspension. They've reconfigured the batteries to where it's got a lot more range on it. The front motor is different now. And what was the other thing? It's like the car is completely different, and they continue to evolve,
Right.
which is what's so fascinating. So not only are you getting a completely, constantly changing vehicle, but then you get over-the-air software updates
Right.
that
Because
that change not only everything. It looks different on the dashboard. It looks different everywhere. It drives different. It does different things. You never know what you're going to get.
yeah, Elon Musk's goal is that it'll be an appreciating asset rather than a depreciating asset, which is what cars usually are, because you can get that hardware that's capable of so many things that haven't been developed yet, and with a simple software download, now your car can do all these amazing things.
That's exactly right. So because my car was I'm waiting on the full self-driving chip, which they can just pop one out and pop another one in, where the car can literally see, because it's
Right.
using sonar and the cameras the cameras have all changed on the cars too.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years. But so it uses cameras and sonar right now to see, but literally with that chip that can do trillions of transactions, it can see stop signs, see traffic lights,
Right.
and cones, construction cones, everything.
Yeah, it can drop you off at the front of the mall and go park itself, and then pick you up when you're
So
ready.
it did come pick me up in front of the building in the rain the other day,
That's nice.
which was nice. The scariest thing is that the car is much more scientific than our brains are.
Yes.
So it literally knows when it's going to be a millimeter from another car.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're watching it in the parking lot, swing its front end around and look like it's going to slam into the back of another vehicle,
Right.
it is one of the scariest things ever.
Sure.
So I really don't use that feature a whole lot because it just still
Yeah.
scares the crap out of me.
It scared me the first time I put one into autopilot and I let it go around the first curve. But then I realized after watching it that it's better than me. It's more accurate than I am.
It's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And just the evolution with the software, because it's collecting data and
Right.
from all these users
Mhm.
and then making modifications based on that data that they're receiving.
Right.
So I have seen it go from in a long curve
Mhm.
on a farm road out here,
Right.
that it will come up to the curve and hit the brakes and then make the curve,
Okay.
to now to where it will see it.
Mhm.
It will make the proper slowdown and go into the curve just like you were driving it, and then accelerate on the backside of the curve.
Yeah, it's learning.
It's incredible, the changes that have taken place. So just over the course of the last year.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the Cybertruck?
Well, so you gotta figure if he's going to go, and this is a guy that literally has the mindset. He's got the same 24 hours we have, and he's looking at. I'm gonna not only am I gonna save the planet by making electric cars. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna go ahead and colonize Mars.
Right.
And then in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and dig tunnels under the ground just to alleviate the traffic burden, and run all three of these companies at the same time that are that far out ahead.
And that's how he divides up his day.
Right. That composes his first half of the day. The rest of it's on Twitter. But you got to figure the guys looking at the truck market and saying, and think of Southeast Texas, how many guys do you know that have bought the same Ford F-150 4 or 5 times?
Yeah.
Because I know that guy. I know 10 of those guys. And in order to break out of that market, it's got to be something just bizarre, different. Because for us, it doesn't even, we say that's not a truck. That's some kind of El Camino thing.
Yeah.
But it broke the market. It broke the internet. I mean, they already have how many orders?
Hundreds of thousands.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So who knows? But the electric motors and the use of those electric motors is just incredible.
Yeah.
What the torque they can pull, the acceleration that they have, the lack of moving parts on them that will give you longevity with those motors is just incredible. And I think a lot of people around here they haven't touched and felt and seen one.
Right.
And so it hasn't necessarily taken off. But
Yeah, because that was always the joke, is before Tesla, electric vehicles were typically like the smart car that's a tiny
right.
two-seater golf cart, no power, maybe 50, 60 miles of range. Well, then Tesla came in as a disruptor, of course, and now it can, go head-to-head with a Corvette.
Oh, yeah.
And now it can go 300 miles, 400 miles. And people said, hold on, let me take a closer look at this. And it seems to be a more efficient type of engine.
It's incredible with that few moving parts. If you can think of it in terms of a golf cart, it's like my wife just drives her car so hard just in town.
Right.
So it's to the HEB and back, and to school and back, and to drop off and back, and turn and stop, and all of those things. Well, these cars were made for that. I mean, there's so few moving parts. You really don't need to use the brake until you're right, because it regenerates power back into the batteries.
Right.
So you just let your foot off the gas and it just
Bogs a little bit.
slows down. And once you get to use that, I mean, there's no wear on the car other than the tires. And it is a heavy vehicle, I'll give you that. The entire underside is battery.
Yeah.
So you do wear the tires pretty good. But other than that, there is just nothing really to break on it. And it's like your phone. I mean, you literally, if there's a problem with the computer, you can reset it. And you just start it over again and everything's back.
Yeah, can't do that with a gasoline engine. So,
No.
Well, speaking of innovative technology, you kind of started out in your early career in the technology sector on
did.
some of the cutting edge. So let's go back a little bit to your origin story
Ooh.
and walk me through that.
Yeah, so graduated from high school here, went to the University of Texas, and while I was there, I got an internship with Dell Computer Corporation.
Yeah.
And
what year was this? Because
that was 1989 or 90.
So this is way before Dell took over every school district in America.
I was employee number 429
Wow.
in Dell Computer.
So did you know Michael Dell on a first name basis?
Everything that I have in my life now originated from the training that I got there.
Yeah.
And Michael was a guy, there was never anything other than first names for any of the executives in that.
Because young people may not remember, but Dell is actually a person. That's his last name. There's a guy named Michael Dell. That's,
Dropped out of the University of Texas because he was putting together computer parts and selling computers out of his dorm room. And it really started to take off. And so ultimately he started doing that full time. And then it evolved into what it did. But it's funny you say that about schools because I was one of the first people in the education department for Dell.
Oh, wow.
Where do you remember Jostens that makes the class rings?
Yes.
The company?
Mm-hmm.
So they were actually an educational software company, and they were my account. And they were the largest educational supplier of software in the country. And what we sold them on doing was putting their labels, OEM, other original equipment manufacturer, we'd put their labels on our computers. So what we literally did was take their software and load it on the hard drive, because this is pre-CDs, this is pre-internet, this is pre-everything. We took their software, manually loaded it on hard drives, and then delivered it to school districts. So it was these massive orders, which made me look like an amazing person. And in a 21-year-old boy mind, I thought I was all that. I mean, you're talking ego out the room.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that Dell got into some international currency hedging issues. And I was like, they weren't giving me a raise or something. And I was like, I don't need this. I'm way better than this. And I took off.
So at 21, had you already gotten your bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
That's very quick.
So I was there 22, 23, 24, I think.
Or so that's about 4 years. Yeah. So you didn't mess around in college.
In Dell. Yeah, I did mess around in college, but I did get out within the required amount of time. Yes. And that was a lot of the reason I got the internship, was because I had to stay there, go to summer school and work.
Oh, right.
So anyway, yeah, I got out on time. I knew if I didn't get out on time, I was completely on my own. But fortunately, at that time, 91 is when I graduated. There were no jobs in Austin.
Yeah, and at that time, my family did not have a personal computer at home. There was no mainstream. It was too costly. There were computers in my school.
Yeah,
I think back then they were Macintosh, probably.
Yeah, probably.
And it was coax cable for television, and that's about it.
Yeah.
in the home.
No, and it was such an amazing time to be a part of all of that, because being on that account, number one, I could see what was coming.
Yeah.
But then also, you're right, everyone was starting to adopt personal computers. That was when the first laptop computers came out.
Yeah.
It was just a revolution that was going on, and to be a part of that was incredible. But such a learning experience for me. I mean, Michael's. I park away from our building because I realize the customers and the agents who come in and out are the ones that need those front parking spots. Michael Dell parked right next to me in the parking garage, there wasn't a big marked stall for Michael Dell, president of the company, where he came in. So
you know, I've been there to visit John at Remax One, and I noticed that that you were far away.
yeah, well, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the revenue driver like they are. And they've got real customers that have real needs that want to come in. I mean, I don't know whether they're young, they're old, they're in between, but you want to get out of your car and walk in the front door.
Right.
The experience starts when you turn off the street. And then if you notice when you leave, we got a little sign there that says thank you with an exclamation point on it.
That's right.
And that's very intentional as well. Even if you go away mad, we want you to know there was a little bit of gratitude in there somewhere.
Sure. So you're a hotshot, younger 20s, and you leave Dell, and you're gonna start your own endeavor.
No, I went for like $3,000 more in a salary to a company in Houston.
Was Dell public back then?
Yes.
Did you have any stock?
I did. That then I had options that expired when I left.
Oh, okay.
So again, this brilliant 24-year-old mind was just, I mean, what an idiot.
And there's a term, they call it Dellionaire.
Dellionaire.
Right?
Yeah, so number 430, who I went in with, is a Dellionaire.
Yeah, and you could equate that as being, one of the first few employees of Facebook or Amazon or
Absolutely.
Microsoft, any of those things. I mean, I hear the story all the time. There's secretaries and custodians of Microsoft that had those stock options back then that became millionaires just because they were associated with that retirement plan.
Absolutely. And you can't, it's hard not to think that things don't happen for a reason. So I learned some very good lessons through all that. But again, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. Right. I definitely wouldn't have moved back to Beaumont. I would be in Austin living in a big giant house on Lake Travis without my beautiful kids, my wife, and you.
That's right. Well, we're glad you're here. And so what happens next for you?
So I went to Houston and worked there for about 6 months. I was hired to run a sales force there. And we walked through and they were like, these are all your people. When I arrived, I sat down, they handed me a laminated sheet of paper and said, read this and sell this. I had no idea what it was. And they gave me a stack of business cards. These are all the people you need to call. So it was like a trade show where somebody tosses their card into a fishbowl for a giveaway. Yeah. And then I got the stack of those cards. And I was like, oh, okay, this is...
So when you have cold leads and warm leads, those are all pretty much cold.
This was just take the cards, make the call, read the sheet. We don't even want you to know what we're selling.
Wow.
And again, I didn't do enough due diligence. I had these... I was the big man. And then I wasn't. So that only lasted about 5 months. And then I took a job in Dallas with an environmental testing company. We tested underground storage tanks. And it was at this time that my father, who had a commercial real estate company here in town, he was a contractor. The savings and loans happened to him in the 80s. And then at the end of the 80s, he bought a commercial industrial real estate company. And he was asking me to come back and work with him, that he thought I would like that. And I said, there's no way I'm moving back to Beaumont. I'm the big man. Do you not know this?
You're in the Metroplex.
That's right. I'm a big deal. And so Dallas, we did that. I sold out the territory there. They told me to go to Minnesota, Minnetonka, Minnesota, where Prince used to have his place where he recorded music, his little wonderland that he had there. Minnetonka, Minnesota, fire the guy that was working there, take over that territory, and get it back working right, and I'd move back to Dallas. And I kind of went back and forth between those two. When October came in Minnetonka, I knew I didn't belong there. It was just, they really changed seasons, literally, like drop all their clothes, put them in boxes, and pull out the winter clothes.
Yeah, you're this far from Canada.
When I saw them switch, if you literally look at it on the map, like Beaumont is at the bottom of the United States, and Minnesota, where I was, is at the very top of the United States. Just a straight line up. Yeah, I knew I didn't belong there. Where I had something like this was the warmest gear that I had. and it was snowing at night, and then not it was decent during the day, but it was a definite, I knew I didn't belong there. So I called my dad and I said, I'm coming home. He was like, come on. And that was it. And so I turned around from there and came on home.
Yeah. Wow. And the venture doesn't stop there. So once you get here, the landscape and the skyline, I'm sure, of Beaumont looked very different.
It did.
In the West End and Dallin Road, Parkdale area.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I think you guys had a lot to do with the development of that area.
I got here in the beginning of 97, end of 96, beginning of 97. It was 2000 that Amoco sold all that land. That was all producing oil land, which if you go to the corner of Delaware and Dallin in Beaumont, there's still a wooded area right there to your left. There's 354 acres that was Amoco producing land. That's the only real piece of it that's left.
Wow.
And a company called Hillcorp bought it, and they're still pulling oil out of there.
Okay.
And so that's still operating. Everything else, all the way back down to maybe even Walmart came out of that track, but it was the post office, it was Lowe's, it's Kohl's, it's Hobby Lobby, it's everything up and down there.
Every big box store pretty
came
much
right after that. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was going on in the company then as your dad's getting older and you're coming up?
When I got there, he was ready to be done.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much. And so we just wanted to see if we could work together and then see so he immediately sent me to school. So I went to go get some designations in real estate and learn and learn and learn. So he just sent me off to do that, said, join the Chamber of Commerce, get involved here locally, and go learn. So I did that. I came back. We started to, the business started forming. You think about that from 2001 to 2006. And I bought Dad out. Once we realized, I spent about a year there with him. Once we realized we could make that work, he allowed me at that point to buy him out of the company. So he stayed there, but he was retired. He was out. I was the decision maker at that point. And yes, he did make me file a note on the thing so he could get paid.
Yeah.
But then from 2001 to 2006, everything was great. 2006 was through the roof. That was when CVS bought Eckerd's, and they came in and did all kinds of new locations around here. And we really got into helping developers and tenants themselves find locations in Southeast Texas. And that was extremely profitable. We did great. The end of 2006 through roughly 2010, absolutely nothing happened, and I spent every dime that I had made up to that point to keep everything going.
Right. And I went to a breakfast with the boss for the Southeast Texas Young Professionals, and you showed me a newspaper article where you're sitting at your desk, there's all these awards and accolades kind of surrounding you, and there's a headline that basically says, this is the coolest guy in business right now. And you kind of had a behind-the-scenes phrase for that.
That's right. So remember, we were going to have the second Spindletop when Motiva came in here.
Yeah.
And Motiva was a client, and I put together some really big tracts of land in Port Arthur for a storage tank for them, 700 acres roughly from a bunch of different owners that we put together to create this thing. And it was submitted to the state of Texas by our local board, and it won the commercial transaction of the year for the entire state of Texas. And this was 2009. It was a 2008 award, but happened in 2009. And so, the paper came and did a story on me. I'm sitting there at my desk, hands out in front of me, and the trophy sitting there on the desk. I don't have a dime in the bank.
Wow.
And what I pointed to you was my eyes. I was like, you see those things?
Yeah.
Those eyes are wondering how I'm going to keep this thing going.
Yeah.
And that was all I knew how to do, was keep taking action in some form or fashion, because realize that was our social media at the time.
Yeah, newspaper.
That was all we had was, and or previously, we had set up these mock press conferences when we'd sell a big warehouse or something like that. And so definitely when this award was won, we wanted to get an article in the paper on it because that was announcing it to the world. If you want to think about how much times have changed, that's just crazy.
Sure.
But yeah, you'd have 20 different outlets you could fire this article out to, even after it came out in the paper, who might pick it up and carry it again somewhere else.
Right.
But yeah, that was a really tough time where it came to me. I knew it was either we had to diversify or Blair and I were probably going to have to move.
Okay.
Just simply because the commercial real estate business and you remember where the economy was at that time.
Right. This is after 2008.
And it wasn't just, and it really hit here probably 9 and 10 the hardest. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't just that companies were going out of business, that there was a possibility that they would reopen. It was literally big companies were pulling all their operations back to Houston, coming to the realization that they could actually operate out of there and not here. And so that's why you don't really see a lot of office occupancy in Southeast Texas, like white collar office occupancy.
Right.
And then office warehouse, there was no plant work going on at the time. Everybody's kind of wait and see. And that's self-fulfilling prophecy at that moment, which is, okay, the United States is, as we know it, is going to stop. You know,
Yes.
where it was like people were really in that frame of mind, where then nobody spent money on anything.
Right.
And it was a very tough time. It was
Yeah.
a very tough time.
Yeah, I started a business in 2007, and I think
You did?
Yeah, so 2007, 2008 were pretty good, and then people were sitting around. Families are sitting around their table thinking, gas prices are high. What can we eliminate? Things that are not a actual necessity, things
That's
that are
right.
a luxury.
Right.
And I provided a optional luxury. So
Well, even not
tough.
so much in that, but think about people even taking their cars in to get them fixed. You have a fender bender, and you need to replace the bumper.
Right.
You're like, nope, going to hold off on that.
Yeah. Sure.
And so it affected all aspects of the economy.
Yeah.
Just from people stopping.
So to satisfy some of your competitiveness, is that when you took a stab at politics?
That was, yes. As a matter of fact, again, another action just to keep myself out there. Because again, no social media. So what am I going to do? Well, an effective marketing campaign for anything, you can use the structure of an election, which is hit them how many times through the mail, hit them how many times on the phone, get out in the community and go where they are and talk to them and see what their issues are.
Yeah, it's great personal branding.
Yeah. So I'm still every day I'm trying to make some kind of effort to get out there. And yeah, I ran for city council, an at-large position here in Beaumont. And, I'm a latchkey kid. I'm the third child and 2 sisters, dominant mother, but I'm 5 years below my next sister. My mom went to work when I came around. So I was in charge of me. And it was hard for me to ask people to volunteer. I'm a lot better at that now, but it was hard for me to say, hey, I need a committee that will help me do this. And there were people that were coming at me going, hey, we'll do whatever you need to do. But I was like, that's going to take some time. So I don't want to mess with you on that end. And ultimately, I ended up losing that at-large race is a popularity vote.
Yeah.
So the top two get it, and I was number 3. And I think it was 125 votes that separated all 3 of us.
Wow.
From the top to me. It was very, very close. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I can tell you there's probably enough people that have come up to me and said, I just thought you would win, so I didn't vote in that election.
Yeah, and I think one of them that won is still there today.
W.L. Payton.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So it's very hard to beat a successful incumbent.
Yes.
And so you're trying to the best you can maybe get that number 2 position. But one of the interesting stories that I heard you tell was the story about your campaign posters and signs and what you did election night.
Oh, like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Yes. And I didn't. So I lost, and it affected me. And I realized there were things that I didn't do right. But I had made the speech. We had it at, I think it was Fat Max at the time over there, where we had the celebration party, which wasn't. And that's one of the hardest things anyone could ever go through, is to have to stand up in front of the people that you love and look at your mother and your father and go, thank you all so much, but we've lost.
Yeah, because I do a small version of politics. You know, I'm involved in the local parties.
Yeah,
and help people with campaigns. And my biggest fear is if I ever run for something and lose, you feel like people don't want you.
It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And I would tell you, don't get rid of that fear. Just put it in a box and stick it up on the shelf. You know where it is if you need it, but just leave it there.
Yeah.
It was traumatic for me, but really I learned so much. So yeah, I had that speech. I went home. I tried to go to sleep. It was very difficult. So I just got up and I said, you know what? I don't want anyone going to work tomorrow and seeing my signs on the street.
Right.
I just had the experience before of seeing the loser's signs, because the loser was not the one that got aggressive with getting out there and pulling the signs out of the ground.
And for weeks you see that.
It was very, very important to me that those just be gone like it never happened.
Wow.
And the funniest part is you go from super popular, everyone's inviting you to things, they want you to be there. And then when you lose, the press calling you all the time for your opinions on all different aspects of everything. The day after the election, silence. I mean, like literally when City Cousin goes into Country Cousin's bar, the record just stops and it is over.
I can imagine it's very psychological.
It is crazy because it's like, and then no one even remembers. That's the funny part. I mean, you know, which now with social media, people get upset about a post that was made or whatever, but it's gone. I mean, it's just minutes and nobody's talking about it.
Right.
Which that's the spotlight effect. We're all concerned about us.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily recognize anything in anyone else unless it affects us. Sure. And for me, it was a great realization that people just didn't remember. There's very few people that know I've ever even done that. Who were wearing T-shirts with my name on them around. It's just really insane.
Right, yeah. And so shortly after that, you decided that you would like to run 26.2 miles.
I needed a victory.
Without stopping?
I needed a victory. And I knew it and I try and start with a victory every day now. But that was really the moment that I said, okay, this was tough. You need something that's going to pick you up, something that's going to allow you to move on, and you can come out a winner. So I know it probably seems trivial, but it literally required me sitting down. I set a goal. I bought a training program. I wrote the numbers on a calendar that I had to run every day, and then I just executed on it and ran the marathon.
Goodness.
And I got the medal, I got the hardware, and I celebrated, and it was that, again, all of these experiences, when you start to add them up, have that compound effect that now I know, after plodding through 26 miles, training for it for 4 months, that I can pretty much get through any kind of endurance challenge. Even if I'm in an unfortunate weather situation behind a train and I'm late, it's like worrying about that is not going to get me anywhere. It's just, I know I'm just hang on, just keep plodding, keep moving, keep going. And yeah, so I ran into, it's a funny story because I think I told you this too, that, you know, I ran the marathon. I ran into all these other people that were like, oh yeah, I did that. And these are, I ran a marathon. They ran one. They got a big, something made out of it and announced it to the world. And I was like, okay. So I ran another one just a couple months later, and then I subsequently ran 7 more of them.
Wow.
And it because it's a reminder that you can do anything if you have a goal in mind and you create the steps to get there and execute on those steps.
Yeah, and if you have to do something that sucks and you compare your pain threshold to a marathon, or because I've never done a marathon, I don't think I have the mental toughness for it to keep going that long. I've never ran more than 10 miles at a time.
It's so easy.
And,
It is so easy. It's just numbers on the calendar, man.
Do you remember back when you were training and putting in, really high mileage weeks, that when you get to the end of the day, you feel at peace because you've put so much out there that you just don't have anything left in a good way?
Absolutely. And so for me, I tend to run early in the morning.
Okay.
And the coffee for me after is just heaven, because so it can become kind of meditation when you're out there. You just feel everything flow out of your body. You're totally alone out there. Your mind is rested. The best ideas pop up in those moments when you've got no distractions around you. You're steady moving, and then problems get solved, new ideas come out. And then when you're done, that whole calm that comes over your body is just amazing. Yeah. The end of the day is there's no insomnia issues there.
No, it's lights out as soon as you hit the pillow. And there's something to be said for waking up early, and you're seeing that a lot more now in motivational speakers. Like Jocko, he takes a picture of his watch every single day and posts it on Instagram, because he says, people say, why do you wake up at 4 a.m. and go work out? And he said, well, you're not going to get a phone call or a text from your boss, from your spouse, from your kids. Everybody's asleep. Most people are asleep at that time. So if I'm up working out, the only person that's going to text me is you. You're
right.
But we're too busy working out. So
no, that's exactly right. And it's also, even I do some travel with my job, and there's nothing better than hitting the ground, getting up early in a big metro city, going out on the streets and running the streets, because you really get a feel for the place. With nobody else running around you, anything like that. It's really incredible when you get there and get on the ground and knock it out.
Yeah. So after that, you decided to take on Remax One.
That's right. It
was an opportunity that presented itself.
But again, so I was literally, I had to take an action every day. Mm-hmm. So from my marathon days, I knew I needed to do something. When I had the conversation with my wife and said, okay, we're going to either need to move or diversify, the logical diversification for where I was in the commercial real estate business would be the residential real estate business. Why not? So I started to have conversations. So I started reaching out to other companies in town. Sally Bundy actually got wind that I was doing that and came to my office, sat down in front of me, unannounced, put her hands on my desk and said, you need to buy us.
Wow.
And because I had 2 sisters and a dominant mother, my response is, yes, ma'am.
And so at the time, I guess, was it Sally and Hester? And
yes, there were 4 of them, Sally, Hester, Mary Jane Mouton, and Virginia Brown.
And some of them are still there to this day.
Yes, they are.
Still agents.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that was at a really good time, I think, because residential real estate has really appreciated in value around some of the surrounding communities of Southeast Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I bought a house in Lumberton in 2006.
Nice.
And it's appreciated like $50,000 in the neighborhood. Just from nothing, just from being there.
No, it's been really incredible what we've seen around here. But you just think about it from even a commercial real estate standpoint, with you look at all the projects that are coming, all the jobs that are being created here. And then literally you look at hurricanes, you look at windstorm, you look at flood now, and how much it actually costs to build a home, where the demand itself, we can't put enough houses on the ground at a price point that used to be the affordable price point of $100,000 to $125,000. That number's moved to like 200 now. Yeah,
despite all the natural disasters.
Well, you just can't build them. Yeah. Builders don't have any margin on a home that they can't make their money.
Right.
So you end up, when you have no supply and a lot of demand, the price is going to go up.
Yeah.
That's economics 101.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we are.
Yeah, every day we're seeing expansions in the refineries, which means more employees.
Yeah.
Southeast Texas is definitely open for business.
Definitely. It's On was our Southeast Texas Economic Development Foundation
Yeah, this week.
story.
That's right.
That's the theme. It's On.
You have a couple of themes too. What is the juicy goodness? Besides the coffee, that's pretty good juicy
Oh,
goodness.
man. God, is there a better way to get one of these things started?
You know, this morning, so I had one cup before I got here, and I started.
I didn't know that.
I started mixing in turmeric and cinnamon in the hot coffee.
So I'm totally down with that. I don't know if you know that I start my days with a what was the green elixir of life, which is now red because it has a raw beet mixed into it too.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I kick off my day is with that craziness.
Yeah. So Laird Hamilton turned me on to the turmeric or turmeric.
Yeah,
or
turmeric, I think, is what he said. But anything Laird does, you want to do.
Yeah. He's older than us.
He's
and-
56, maybe?
Yeah. And there's nothing slowing him down.
No.
At all.
No. He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give that a go.
But that's awesome. Yeah. So I'm doing collagen so everything I had was plant based.
Okay.
Until I added the bone broth collagen in, but that's just for my joints because I'm a little bit older than you.
Sure. Okay.
But so I've got plant protein, hemp protein powder, turmeric, matcha, and flaxseed.
Yeah.
And something else, and then I just throw in a ton of salad ingredients.
Yeah. Do you do the kombucha? I don't know anything about it. I haven't looked into that yet.
No.
I'll have to check that out. I began in Southeast Texas. My degree is in nutrition, and like many of us, I don't use my degree for my current career, but I stared out in
You did,
in
and you
2005.
consulted with my wife.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a funny story about that. So we did a little we had a really interesting device that was kind of ahead of its time back then in 2006, and it was called a body gym, and you could breathe into it for a certain amount of time and take some measurements, and it would tell you what your basal metabolic rate was. So you know how much calorie you are allowed for a particular day versus how much you're going to burn. And so I started asking her about her diet a little bit and what she eats, and she was like, "Oh, I drink a glass of wine every night because it's it's healthy for you." And I said, "Well, hold on," and this is a long time ago where I would only.
This was probably before you knew never question a woman's wine drink.
Yeah, and back then I was only drinking water, working out every day, going to sleep, no alcohol, nothing. I was going to be the optimized human, right? I was on a mission to be the best personal trainer ever.
I completely understand that mindset.
And I said, well, there's 7 calories per gram in alcohol, and the health benefits that you're talking about are from the antioxidants of the grapes. So the alcohol doesn't have anything to do with it. I was like, imagine if you said, well, I eat a bag of chips every night. It's just empty calories. You could take that out and remove that, and say we clone you, and you drink a glass of wine every night and your clone doesn't. Which one's going to be the more optimized human, right? And so I think it turned the wheels, and she made a lot of progress. But it's funny because as I've gotten older, if she were to tell me that, I'd be like, hell yeah, girl, drink 2. You ever tried 2 glasses of wine a night? Yeah.
Oh, so that's funny. I mean, and I've evolved to where I drink very little now. Very, very little.
So I never drank coffee or really alcohol until I was 35.
No kidding.
Yeah, when I turned 35, before that I would wake up every morning ready for life. I was running on 100% Tyler, and when 35 came around, I said, maybe there's something to this coffee thing that everybody likes.
Oh man. It is definitely what keeps me going. But yeah, I drank enough for a full lifetime by the time I was 35.
So I'm trying to catch up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it's just, my business is all the time. And in order for me to be optimized now in terms of sleep and getting up early and everything, I just found it was dragging me down. So it wasn't that big a deal. Blair and I did a 28-day alcohol-free challenge, and it kind of changed my relationship for sure. So in order to deal with me, though, you got to understand a woman's going to need wine.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of the deal.
Yeah. So Blair, if you're listening, you get that one glass. You go for it.
That's right.
But
that's right.
What are some of the challenges? And this is probably a whole nother can of worms, and you can abbreviate it. What are the challenges of downtown Beaumont and Crockett Street? Because you've been here in the heyday,
right?
And then you've seen currently where.
Yeah, we used to actually have when we were the commercial real estate company, there was a coffee shop in the Provost Humphrey building on
the Stedman building.
Yeah, the Stedman building right there, and we used to have our weekly meetings in that coffee shop. Mm-hmm. So we actually watched Crockett Street being redone. Wow. And I think I go to the retailers that we work with because we like to ask these questions. Mm-hmm. What do you think about downtown? Hotel people, what do you think about downtown? Why don't you want to go there? The feedback that we get is largely, if you just look at it geographically, you've got a river on one side, you've got industry on another, mm-hmm. and then on the north side over there is really just nothing. Mm-hmm. And you need people. You need rooftops in order to pull people down there.
There's no living downtown.
There's a little
bit,
but it's. I mean, you gotta have one of these Lumberton subdivision kind of things in order to draw that retail mm-hmm. out front. And if you notice that, you'll see where they go.
Yeah,
the retailers, that is
right.
And it's. I think that at its very root. Mm-hmm. is the issue, is that it is not necessarily super convenient for people to drive down there.
Right, because people want to see the riverfront develop similar to Port Neches, but we have a railroad track there that kind of impedes that.
That's right. And they're moving it, but there's still going to be one track that goes through there.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it can't be developed, and I love it that the attitude has been for the past 15 years at least that we're gonna make this happen.
Yeah, it's starting to get revitalization.
Well, and it's been ongoing. Main Street down there had done a lot with those buildings. The guy that I worked with, Ben Bundy, had taken the old, I can't remember what the building was called, but he'd lived in the second floor of it and was renovating it himself. There's a lot going on, but there's still a lot for sale.
Yeah, AmeriCommerce recently bought a building down there. That's going to be really cool. And Ed's very into
Ed is
downtown.
Working on it himself. I love it.
I always say if there's a Southeast Texas version of Tony Stark, Elon,
that's our guy.
Elon Musk. That's Ed.
I love it
because he has that vision. Lee bought a building down there.
Okay.
And he told me that he's got plans for the warehouse portion of it.
Cool.
The Santa Fe building.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. There's a brewery down there.
Yes.
Now. So we just need some condos. I want to live in the Goodhue penthouse.
There you go. Good call.
But I don't think they're letting people in there. It needs some renovations. But
that was, I think the first time that building sold after being vacant was for something like $250,000.
For a building?
And it's got those antennas on the top,
I think their source of revenue is the Verizon Tower.
Yes.
And they recently chopped it in half because I think the 5G conversion, I think 5G is lower to the ground.
Yeah. The spectrum of that 5G is much smaller in order to get those speeds than traditional whatever 3, 4.
Yeah, like 4G.
Yeah, there you go. LTE.
I think that maybe we should just stop. Like I think the phone I have is good. I don't think we need any more.
Right.
The iPhone 12, 13. What more can they do?
Every year. And the only thing, I do a video every week, and I use the front-facing camera, so I can see myself, just like you have on yours here. Mm-hmm. So any improvements in that, I'd be willing. But everything else.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever looked at your time hop if you've made some videos on Facebook and seen the real grainy ones from like 2010, 2012? And I'm like, what did I film this on? My goodness. This is 4K.
Oh, my God.
In your pocket.
It's insane. Because I actually did some videos 1,000 years ago when I yelled at my wife. I didn't really yell at her, but we had cabinets that were filled. And I'm like, why can't you do anything with all this stuff in here? And then I opened one of the cabinets and it was filled with coffee cups.
Oh.
And I was like, okay.
Probably marketing.
It was me. Yeah. It was all me. And so I took them out one at a time and did a little video of the store as I threw them away.
Oh, yeah.
To market. Here's where this came from. Here's why I got it. Have a great day. And it was literally on my laptop camera that was awful.
Yeah.
Awful. And I look awful.
I think I'm on a quest for marketing material that does not end up in the trash. Because coffee cups, pens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm totally with you.
Have you ever got a chance to meet Gary Vaynerchuk when you go to the RE/MAX National Convention?
I did. Mm-hmm. And he was asking me lots of questions because he's looking for advice. So I told him just to get out there and do it. No, so he's spoken a few times,
right.
and so I stalked him a little bit and went down there early, got his entourage as he was coming in, and I was like, "Come on, man, let's get a picture."
Yeah.
So
I think that was one of his first big speaking gigs.
Okay, so the original speech that he did at one of the national conventions that RE/MAX did was on the day that Crush It, his first book, was released.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was because that was when he used to do the speeches. He'd stand out there, if everyone knows who Gary Vaynerchuk is, he would stand out there and ask the crowd to raise their hand. How many of you all know who I am? And that was literally 3/4 of the crowd would not raise their hand.
Yeah.
So he was not known at all. Realtors average age 56, something like that, where you're in a realtor convention and Gary's group is average age of what, 24 to 36,
the
something like that.
Yeah.
And nobody knew who he was.
Oh, I bet.
And he just tore it up that day. But that was the day his book came out.
Wow. Yeah, that's very fascinating.
I remember listening to Crush It on audiobook. And that was one of the first ones where I remember the author reading the book. If you've ever done it, do you do books by audio?
Yeah, audio only, actually.
So when the author reads the book, especially Gary, he's like, okay, let me hang on just a second. He's like, let me tell you what I wanted to say right here. So I've said this, but let me just expand on it a little bit.
That's great.
And I love it. It is so great because he just, when they get into their actual own content and start telling you where it came from or why they did it or where it's going, it's just fascinating.
Sure. What are some of the other influencers that you do daily for inspiration or content consumption?
Oh, I'll tell you. Lately, the James Clear with his, what is it? It's Habits, but I can't remember the first part of the name of the book. It's, oh man, that's going to kill me. But anyway, his book on habits is the best that's out there. And it feeds back into everything else that I've read, whether it's Compound Effect, whether it's my beliefs on the marathon or your beliefs on David Goggins, killing yourselves with pull-ups, whatever it is to get your mind that I've experienced this or I can create a habit, talking about like exercising in the morning, like just the mental aspect of somebody that says, I'm not a morning person. Well, guess what? You're not. And until you decide that you're going to be, and then creating the habit by literally just getting up at the same time every day. So your ultimate goal is to get up and exercise, but you start with just stand up out of bed and walk into the other room.
Yeah, even David Goggins says there's mornings that he wakes up and he stares at his shoes for 5 minutes because he doesn't want to get up.
Right.
And people would consider him maybe one of the most mentally tough persons on the planet.
Yep.
And even he has those moments. And
absolutely.
He has to take this first step to overcome those moments, sometimes daily, weekly.
No, it's and I'm really sad because I want to say it's Compound Habits, but it's some kind of extreme. But his name is James Clear, and the book is fascinating. Yeah. It is so great, and it really does pull together a lot of other material that I've read into that. Life can be distilled down. A lot of my job is to distill the emotion out of issues and come down to, okay, what can we fix with this? Or what can we not fix? Or what do we not know? And if you can tear everything away and know that you can do anything by just trying to be 1% better every day, that you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish.
Right.
And then you just build on that. You just start stacking on that habit. I mean, for instance, buying a coffee this morning, getting an extra one. You know, you start the day with kindness, a little bit of gratitude, and you're one better.
Yeah.
Smile. We're 40% more productive when we smile.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's just all of that is so incredible. But to see how you can then build habits around that can really help you find who you are in there somewhere. Because I just found that I'd been masking a lot of stuff for a long time, and it was this journey of learning, trying to get better, has really opened up a whole new world for me.
Does it feel like the you in your 20s and the you currently is almost like two different people?
I've had like 4 different people.
4 different people?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
At least. And like even from when I hit 7th grade, that magical change when your body takes over, I look like a completely different person.
Yeah.
Is what's funny than from when I was a kid to now. But absolutely. I mean, that kid I was talking about, I wouldn't even recognize him.
Yeah.
Now some of that brash confidence, I've tried to tamp down in there, and I really need to earn it, but it's still there.
Yeah, and you use it as a tool.
Yeah, yeah. So but absolutely. I mean, I swear I'm at least 4 different people. Each one of my moves was probably moving to Minnesota from Texas. So if you literally take that drive to Minnesota, I knew not one person.
Yeah.
And I was thinking when I was there, and I remember this very clearly, I could have created whatever person I wanted to be because no one had any context on me at all.
Yeah, and they can't look you up on social media.
Nothing. Nothing at all. And so it's fascinating to have to go through that, but then coming back here and then re-engaging with a community that I had been out of for at least 10 years has been so rewarding. So you go from zero, a blank slate, back into this, but then I end up creating my own original person.
Yeah.
See, because you don't know all those crazy people I was.
Yeah. I only know, early 2000s.
Yeah, know this guy.
And now. And I would say I like this version the best.
And so do I. I mean, and
you're the best version of yourself, and that's what everybody should strive to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One day at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Well, let's wrap this up. Tell everybody where they can find you.
We are, physically at the corner of Gladys and Major Drive in Beaumont, Texas. You can find us on the web, rmx1.com, rmxone.com, 409-860-3200. We have 4 offices, Beaumont, Nederland, Bridge City, and Mont Belvieu. And I use an electric car to get to all 4.
Yeah, and if you're cruising through social media, you can search hashtag World Dom. Or hashtag Juicy Goodness.
It's a simple goal. And the Juicy Goodness has to do, that came from the culture in our office.
Right.
It's a vortex of juicy goodness that if you get too close to it, it'll suck you in.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming. You don't know this, but there's in the notes app of my phone, before I ever recorded the first episode, there's a list of about 10 people. And I said, I've got to get these 10 people. These are key people that are very important to me to share their story. A lot of people may not think that their individual story is that important to share with people, but me as an outsider, I see that, and I said people need to hear this. And you've been on that list since day one, so thank you.
Oh man, that's great. Well, and thank you for taking the step to actually do this.
Yeah.
To step out here. I know that's not a simple task because you do have to have a purpose, and you then have to make that list, and you have to. The consistency of the podcast, I think, is. What's the most critical component of it is you gotta do it for what, a year expecting nothing.
Right. If you think that you're gonna start a podcast and make money, you're wrong.
That's right. Or have a listener for that fact, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you really got to go into it because it's fun and you enjoy it. And I've learned so much from you, and I just thank you for that. I mean, it's just such an amazing thing.
Yeah. If you go back far enough, at some point in time, Joe Rogan had 1 listener.
That's right.
1 Facebook follower, 1 Twitter follower, and it built from there.
And Gary even.
Gary
It was literally, he was on YouTube for a year and a half
Yeah.
before he had over a couple of hundred subscribers.
Yeah. I know a lot of podcasters that have quit after 5-6 episodes because they say it's not taking off.
Right.
And if you started it for that reason, then
How many times have we heard about the overnight success after 10 solid years of daily grinding that
Right.
you go, yeah, just let that one hit go and look at him, huge.
Yeah.
Nothing about the smoky rooms with 3 people in there.
Sure.
All of it. Comedians, the same thing. I mean, it's
Yeah, I never bring a guest on thinking, this is going to be the big one. This is going to help. This is going to catapult me and go viral. I just bring them on because I want to hear their story and have a conversation. And there just happens to be a microphone in the way and a camera in the way.
It's so great. It's so great, and I thank you for it. It's really awesome because I told you I flew to Hawaii earlier in the year, and I downloaded like everything up to that point,
Right.
which I think maybe we concluded with the Arcana Chronicles, or it was Eddie right after that, I think.
That's a good
I
one.
can't remember, but I downloaded all of those and listened to them on the plane.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed all of them. And so anyway, you got one in me, baby.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Well, we've got 8 hours for the rest of the day to make it count. So
Let's do it.
let's
Yeah.
do
Let the world come at us because we've already got our victory.
Let's get this bread. All right. See y'all next time, everybody.
Adios.